Well, January and February is back to school time in this part of the hemisphere. And as Australians go back to school, one of the things we do look at is the correct tools we need at home, but also in the office to make sure we're doing schoolwork better and business better from within our homes. Now, one thing we learned during lockdown was that printing and printing well and printing efficiently was something we all wanted to do more of, and many of us turned to Ecotank. Well, there's more models of Ecotank printers in the market now than there have been ever before, that I can remember anyway. So I thought we'd have a chat with Bruce Bealby from Epson about Ecotank technology, ink tank technology generally, and also where they're going with Ecotank over 2021. Bruce, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Look, it's always good to have a chat. And as you know, I've got two of your Ecotank printers, one in the studio here, a couple of meters away over there, and then I've got one inside the house. And I have affectionately referred to these as my business printing press and the home printing press because they print a lot of pages. As somebody who uses the technology, I guess I've got an intimate understanding of how well they work. But what are the things that your customers find first and most when they switch to Ecotank?
Yeah, okay. So I think the overriding benefit of Ecotank is the fact that you don't have to go out and buy cartridges. I think all of us have had to buy cartridges over the years, and it has become a real point of contention and a point of frustration. So the overriding first comment that I hear from people that have bought a Ecotank printer is that, that their ink just keeps going. And in many cases, they haven't replaced the ink at all since they bought it. So that's the main benefit. And then, of course, the frustration of having to go out to store to buy the cartridges. If you've got several kids that are printing, particularly when we're studying and working from home, you can churn through ink, and that's frustrating when you run out at really inconvenient times. So they're the two main benefits that our customers are telling us.
We, in lockdown, were printing like our lives depended on it, Bruce. I mean, and I was watching and I was taking great interest in the movement of the ink level. We can see that movement electronically. We can also see it on the side of the printer because of the windows that you've built onto each tank. It didn't seem to move very much at all, even though we were printing a lot of color and then a lot of black and white. Is that the experience that people have, that they are just surprised by that, especially when they've moved across from cartridge? I mean, I get that, not buying cartridges and things like that, but are they surprised at how little ink or how little they need to actually refill the tanks?
Yeah, they are surprised, and if you're used to buying a $50 printer, you'll soon realise that after as little as a couple of hundred pages, you're having to go and run out and spend $100 on ink, which you're not really aware of when you've made your initial $50 purchase. But with some of the Ecotank models, we actually give customers up to 14,000 pages of ink in the box. So, you're comparing a couple of hundred pages versus 14,000 pages. You can see how people don't make that ink level move for several months, if not years.
With that and the refilling of the ink, it might have been a couple of years ago, but you did make a change in the design of the ink bottles to make it less spillable in the process, because that was one of the concerns that somebody said to me on the radio show, that they're worried about filling up the ink tanks and getting the ink everywhere and making a mess. You actually made a change in design to make that less able to happen, didn't you?
Yeah, and the bottles now are particularly keyed in a particular way that they'll only refill the correct printer. So that was another change. But now, you just put the bottle on top of the slot and it fills it up. So in the first generation, There's a few issues of people getting ink on their fingers, but that's definitely a thing of the past.
I've still got one of your first generation printers, and it must be about 5 years old. Is it 5 years or longer that you've been making Ecotank?
Yeah, it's four to 5 years is been how long we've been in this game. We started off with 1 or 2 models. We've now got 20 models. So it's now become a major part of our printer lineup. And recently as well, we've categorized the Ecotanks into 3 areas just to make it easier for our customers to buy the right one. This can be a little bit overwhelming when you're faced with a choice of 20. So we've categorized them into kind of regular Ecotanks for home use, and then Ecotanks for people that want to print photos, and then Ecotank Pro, which is more aimed at smaller business or people that want to print only in black and white. So the website now is very clear and it's quite straightforward to select the right Ecotank that you need.
The other interesting thing about Ecotank as a technology is when you began, we had conversations about what Ecotank printed well, and you talked about documents and presentations and those kinds of things, and it printed color well and it printed black and white well. You didn't talk much about photos, and then a couple of years into the life cycle of the technology, you actually started talking about the improvement of photo printing and how photos printed via Ecotank were now of a very high quality. How difficult was it to make that jump, and how good are the photos we can print on Ecotank today?
Yeah, so the major difference between a document Ecotank and a photo Ecotank is that with a photo you have an extra color. So that extra color is 5 colors as opposed to 4 colors. That just gives you the gradation in color and the contrast that our more photo-orientated customers are after. And the quality really has to be seen to be believed. It is very, very good, as good as one of our kind of sort of semi-pro ink cartridge photo printers. So yeah, if you want to print photos, and I have a photo Ecotank at home, and I've gone back to printing photos and sending them to my family, particularly at these times where you don't see each other so often. A photo really makes a difference. And, again, you can print A4 photos or even an A3 photos, and it's hundreds and hundreds of photos, not depleting all your ink with 5 photos, which used to be the case with the older ink cartridge models.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing is you've built extra features in. You do have models with the scanner and then the sheet feeder. You've got the app works in with the printer, so it gives you lots of flexibility around the scanning, sharing of content, that kind of thing. You also support your printers with firmware upgrades and things like that.
Yeah, so again, we have 20 models, and it really depends on how you want to use it. So if you are more of a business user, maybe used to buying the laser, which is quite an old technology now, we now have a range really aimed at that type of customer. So the major differences is a slightly different ink. It uses a pigment ink, so it doesn't smudge at all, even if you have water on it. Those Ecotank Pro machines are faster. They also have larger paper trays. You're not having to refill the paper tray on a regular basis. So, there's subtle differences, but they're important differences. But the overriding benefit is always comes back down to cost per page. And on those Ecotank Pro printers, a cost per page can be as little as 0.03 of a cent. So, it's many, many, many times cheaper than running an old laser printer.
There's also benefits around not throwing out cartridges or having to recycle cartridges. As I mentioned, I've got one of your original Ecotank printers. It's still going strong today and it's printing today the way it did when I first took it out of the box. The fact that we're not throwing, I would imagine, because we've spent more on the printer, we're less likely to actually throw the printer out. We're probably more focused on getting it repaired or serviced or those kinds of things. Are you seeing that kind of behaviour with your customers too, as required?
Yeah. So you make a valid point about the ink cartridges, but if you can recycle those through retailers' recycling schemes. So for me, the bigger issue has been people throwing printers out. And again, I come back to people think they're getting a bargain when they spend $30-$40 on a printer, only to realize after a couple of weeks they've run out of ink and the replacement ink cartridges are over $100, and they throw the printer out. And that is really of concern for a company like Epson, that printers in that very low price bracket have become almost disposable items. And that's terrible to see on council cleanup days where you drive around and there's just printers out on the nature strip because people have not realized how expensive they are to run.
And those in my council, those council cleanup, they don't recycle that e-waste, Bruce. No. In my council, they've said they've got an e-waste recycling program that you can put your e-waste out to and they will recycle it for you. But that's not associated with council cleanups. Every time I see something like that, I think, that's just, it's the wrong message. So I guess anything we can do to reduce the instances of that is good. Where are you going to go with Ecotank? You've sorted out the ability for people to use it at home and use it well. You've sorted out the ability to use it at work and use it well. You've sorted out people who want to print photos. Where are you going to go next with the Ecotank range, and what's the next problem you're going to try and solve, I suppose?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of comments there. First of all, it's awareness. So, of course, myself and yourself are very much aware of Ecotank, and it's a very easy concept to embrace and go and buy one. But still, the general population is not so familiar with this newer technology. So the challenge for us moving forward is to get the message out there, and that's what we're going to be doing very shortly. Is just explaining to people that yes, Ecotanks may be a little bit more expensive than what you have been buying in the past, but over 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, it's going to save you, in some cases, thousands of dollars. And that is the kind of what we'll be embarking on very shortly, is just to get that awareness out there so people really understand that they have a choice. We still will sell ink cartridge printers, but we really want to make aware to people that they have a choice. And the other comment I would make is that we also have a range of B2B printers, so more commercial printers. And these also use not Ecotank type tanks, but they use other types of ink delivery systems, which are much more economical compared to what people have been using in the past. So that is another area that we are working on, is to take that concept of Ecotank and use it in our commercial printers as well.
Well, lots of development to be had here, and look, it's a good technology, and anything we can do to raise awareness for ink tank-based printing versus cartridge printing, we're always keen to do. We hopefully have explained some of the benefits to people who've watched this interview today. Bruce Bealby from Epson, thanks for joining us today, and best of luck with the next Ecotank printing endeavour.
Thanks, Charlie.